Hello everyone, today we're going to do a tutorial about joining the hexagons using the whip stitch. Now we do it two ways. The first one is going through both loops on the top of the stitch, and the second one, which is this one, uses the back loop only. But before we start joining, we actually have to add an extra round to this hexagon to make it big enough and to make it have the same stitch count as the rest of them. Then at the end, we discuss whether we should do a tutorial next about a straight edge border or a wavy one. I've popped a poll up in my community tab so you can place a vote whether you would like to see a video for the straight edge border or not. Righto, let's get into it. I really enjoyed this one way more than I thought I would, so I hope you do too. Before we begin joining our hexagons, we need to increase the size of this one. Now this is that super sweet little pattern number 3. Just because of the way I've created the pattern, even though I've done 5 rounds like each of the others, I've only ended up with 2, 4, 6, 8 double crochets across each side, whereas all of the other ones have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and it is too small. So we can rectify that one nice and easily. I may have been able to do it on the run had I have taken notice, but I didn't, so we need to do this before we start joining our blanket. Now this problem does happen even with professional designers. I have had the hexagons that I'm yet to join up that I'll show you as well. Some of those are larger, some are smaller, and I've had 2 granny square crochet alongs where some of the squares were smaller than the others. So on the go, I would add an extra round of half double crochet or single crochet. So it does happen at times. I would like to say that a very thoughtful designer would make the squares or the motifs the same size, because to me that would be part of designing. However, this happens. So the way to deal with it is quite simple. We are just going to do a single crochet around this one because I think a double crochet, half double crochet, would be just far too big. And we just need those extra 2 stitches per side. So just before we start, I want to show you what the hidden stitch is. Now, it is the top of the stitch, which is the first one of the row or the round. It often gets hidden when you're working in the round. So when someone says work into the hidden stitch, that simply means work into this little stitch here, which is at the top of the first stitch. Okay, so we are going to utilize that hidden stitch. Yarn end in your right hand, make a loop around 2 fingers on your left, pulling up that loop, and there you have a movable slip knot. We're going to do 1 single crochet, chain 1, 1 single crochet in the corner. Popping your hook in, pull up your loop, yarn over and pull through both loops. Yarn over and chain 1. Now make another single crochet in that corner. Here we're going to pull our stitches aside so that we can work into that hidden stitch. Popping your hook in, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through both stitches. Alright, so now we just go along the remainder of the side doing single crochets. That's our last stitch. Now when we reach the corner, we pop in for a single crochet, a chain 1 and a single crochet. Now utilising that hidden stitch again, because that helps get our stitch count correct as well. Popping your hook in, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Working your way along. Go along and work all the way around your hexagon, and I will meet you back here at the end. Now popping your yarn end through the eye of your needle, picking up your work. Now we're not going to go through that first little stitch that has the slip knot attached to it. We're going to work underneath the second one, okay? That little V looking stitch on the top. Now we're going to form a loop by sending your needle down the centre of the last single crochet that was made. There we go. We tighten it up to resemble all the other little stitches along the top. And that's your invisible finish. Turning your work over to weave the yarn end in and out, and through some fibres if you can. Pulling that way. Turning my work. Weaving the yarn end. And that's one. Now to do the other one. This one has the little slip knot attached to it. I try to tuck the little slip knot up under the stitch when I'm darning my ends in, just because I can and I think it's neater. I'll come back to that. Okay, working our yarn end in, out, and all about. Turn my work and go back. There we go. Let's snip those off. And we're going to measure against one of the other ones, and now it is perfect and it has the correct stitch count too. So that's helpful. Look at that. We did well, guys. Disaster averted. Here are all my 8-ply samples that I'm going to use to show you how to sew 2 different methods of joining the hexagons. All right, and the hexie blanket I made from my mini skeins, I'm going to use the single crochet method of joining. When joining these hexies with a sewing needle, you actually use a different pathway as opposed to when you use a continuous join as you go style method, which would do something more like this. But this way, using a needle, they join these sides together on all 3 strips and then join the strips together. Okay, so let's get started into that. For this project, you need your hexagon motifs, some contrasting colour, darning needle and scissors. I'm going to show you 2 of the joins. One of them is doing a whip stitch, and you go over and under both loops on the top of the stitch. Okay, then the other one, you just go over and under with a whip stitch on the back loop only. Now that's the one I prefer. So I'm going to show you both, but I'll just do a little bit of the first one, pull it undone, and then I'll complete this little mini project using the back loop only. First of all, we're going to use the whip stitch under both stitches. So picking up your motifs, placing the corners together. Now popping your needle under both stitches above the chain 1 made in the corner. Pulling that through, leaving enough yarn to darn in. Under the next one, both stitches on both sides. Pulling your yarn through the whip stitch, which is in and out under both stitches. You're already starting to get that little woven look happening. Now, I don't mind this little woven look sometimes. Sometimes it really suits. I feel like it's the cottage or vintage style patterns that it suits. Something a little bit rustic even. But for mine, I don't think it suits these hexagons. Which is why I'm going to use the back loop only for this little project. All right, so you've got the idea of working in and out, yarn over and under, all the way across. There we go. Now let's open this up and have a look. That is the effect that you get from using the whip stitch through both stitches. Okay, it's nice and easy. So you would go along and sew up all the little sides for each row. And then once you've done that, you need to do each row together. And I'm going to show you how to do that with the next stitch. Righto, let's get into that one now instead. This time when you're picking up your motifs, I would fold them over so they're facing each other. Again, find those little corner gaps and you'll be able to see the back loop more easily from this direction. All right, so I've picked up the back loop on one side and the back loop on the other. Pulling that yarn through, leaving a nice tail, back loop and back loop. Back loop and back loop. Back loop and back loop. And it's as simple as that. Again, using the whip stitch, just going in and out. Now we've done one side, let's open up our work and see how it looks. There we go. I'm much happier with that. It's virtually invisible. I like that for these ones a lot. So I'm going to go along and do up a row so I can show you how to join the rows together. To join the rows together, we can't just line the hexies up and it's all nice and easy going, because look what happens. So what you need to do is pick up one side at a time. Okay, now with the full hexie, finding the corner chain, popping a loop through the back loop of that chain. Now we're going to work into what appears like the back loop of the first double crochet on the half hexie. It's a bit tricky to find because it's just not a normal stitch like the others. So just go through that stitch there. Pulling the yarn through, now we're going to lay it over so we can go through the back loop of the next stitch. And here you'll find it's easy going from now on in. back loop of the third and back loop of the half hexie, back loop and back loop, back loop and back loop. We've done the first side with whip stitch. Turning your work back over, I just wanted to check that it was a-okay. Now we need to find the back loop of the corner chain again of that grape coloured hexagon. This time, because we've utilised all the stitches of the half hexagon, we are going to work into the pink full hexagon. So here you will see it has a back loop available from its chain one corner as well. Now we can pop the two fronts together of these two hexagons and work our way along the side in the back loop of both. And I'm going to turn it over and show you soon what the corners look like doing them this way. When you take a look at this three-way corner, you'll see that all the stitches on the grape and the pink hexagon have been used up. Then you have a look at the peach one and the pink one. You need to start with a stitch in the peach back loop only and the pink back loop only. So whip that, firm that up, firm that one up, and then if you turn it over, you will see that the corner has been created. All right, let me just finish off another row here and I'll show you properly. And there we go. That corner looks so much better and more secure once I had darned in the yarn end. And the same can be said of this one as well. Let me pop it into. Just taking it across wherever you can see that there's a little gap. Here you'll see with that yarn end darned in now how much better that corner looks. So I'm actually going to go off now and sew all of these rows together and show you the end result. And then we'll be able to do a border on this little sample as well. See you soon. Hi everyone, I'm back and I have sewn all of these hexies and the little halves together. And I've got good news, is that it doesn't take near as long as what I thought it would. And I am absolutely loving the effect. It was silly of me to say when you gather up your materials that you need a contrasting colour for the join. That just came out. Please ignore that. You can use whatever colour you like. I myself would probably choose a colour that didn't stand out, so not a contrasting colour. So after I'd said that, I realised I said something very wrong. Anyway, back to this. What I found was, as I told you earlier in the video, when you come to the three-way corners, to make sure that each stitch had been taken up by your joining yarn. Okay, what I did was that, and then when I darned my yarn ends in, I found that I was closing up the circle even further, which had an even better effect. Now I'll show you one. I did leave one that wasn't closed up by the yarn end, and it has a bit of a hole, as you can see there. You might be able to see it better down there. So each of those stitches has been used up, but there's still a hole remaining. So what I did for all of the joins, the corner joins, was use my leftover yarn end to sew it up even better. I really wanted to add that into the video so that you know, and it makes life a whole lot easier for you too. I think I'll go under that one, through that one. Now this is just for the example's sake. I would normally have a longer yarn tail here to use, but we'll go with what we've got. All right, so I've now added extra stitches in those corner joins, and that looks a whole lot better. All right, so what you do is, like I said in the video, make sure each stitch of each corner way has a joining stitch in it, but they can do with some extra reinforcement. Well and truly. I suggest it actually. I much prefer it with the extra reinforcement. They're all done nicely with no gaping holes. So I'm going to leave this little tutorial where it is. We've joined up our motifs. We've got a straight side with the half hexies, and over here too. What I want to show you next on this little sample is how to do a border. Now, I actually prefer this wavy edged border, but I feel like I should show you how to achieve that straight border. All right, because you need to crochet stitches into this little triangle space and make them straight across the bottom. Maybe I'll put up a poll. That's what I'll do. I'll ask you guys if you would like me to do a tutorial on making a straight base along the edge of the hexagon blanket, or if you're quite happy for me to just make a few different types of borders that you can use. Righto, I think we'll do that. I'll get this video out at least so you can see how to join with the whip stitch using back loop only. And remembering that at the beginning of this video, I show you how to do the whip stitch using both stitches, front and back loop. All right, I'm having too much fun with this one. I don't want it to stop. I'm going to go off, pop up my poll, and you will see what evolves from that, I'm sure, in due time. All right, everybody. You're a bunch of enablers and I absolutely love it. Thanks for being here. If you enjoy my videos and you haven't subscribed already, please consider doing so. Give me a like, and I'm always so happy if you leave a comment. I will talk to you all again really soon. Bye for now.